light. But if your eye is evil, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you shall eat or what you shall drink, nor about your body what you shall put on. Is not the soul more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of heaven, they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? And which of you, by being anxious, can add 1 cubit to his stature? And why are you anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon himself in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O men of little faith? Therefore do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the Gentiles seek all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be yours as well.
Glory to thee, O Lord, glory to thee.
Glory to Jesus Christ. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. It is the most difficult thing for us to hear words like we heard in this morning's gospel lesson, because they're so transparently kind of obvious, except if we are so in the dark, you're regarding the truth about ourselves. We start out this gospel lesson by hearing about the eyes and the light, and how important it is that there be light in us, and the whole of our lives are about trying to move in that direction. We look at how we begin, as little children, we don't know anything. We grow up to a point where people say we have reached the age of reason. And then we know that a little bit after that age, which would be around 7 or 8 years old, when we know right or wrong, we speak of how we can start to think abstractly. And we can start to conceptualize things. But it's a very odd sort of enterprise then, that we end up not having made all that much progress, have we? To hear words like, do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? My guess is that for most of us, that's about all we do. That's about all we do. And so, even when we look at something as kind of obvious as it ought to be when we come to church, when we stand here and are blessed with the opportunity to gaze upon and to hear and to smell and to taste the very kingdom of God, how strange it would be that these doors this building wouldn't be sufficient to hold all the people who would want to be here. And it's one of those fascinating kinds of things I was thinking about this morning, because, again, when we look at culture, we realize that it kind of shows what the people are made of. And then when it swings in another direction, we get to see some contrasts. Because we can all remember, not that long ago, when culturally speaking, our church and our churches in America were full, where people believed in God and came and expressed it. However, the question as to whether or how deep that depth of faith might be is also worth our pondering. You know, in this morning's epistle, we get to hear a little bit about faith, and we get to hear a little bit about us having been given a custodian until Christ could come. But for many of us, we really would prefer that the law just be in place, because it's a lot easier for us to justify ourselves when we have a law that is kind of imposed on us. You know, how many times do we clergy hear, you know, Father, just tell me what I need to do. Just tell me what I have to do. As though there's some formula that could be given that will guarantee you staying out of hell and getting to heaven. And we even like that sometimes, because it's so simple to just consider heaven and hell and imagine that, well, you know, we're not perfect, but we can't be bad enough for hell. And for some of us, that's about the depth of our spiritual contemplation. Just some notions about right or wrong that we probably picked up when we were 7, 8, 10, 11 years old, and we still don't seem to have matured much from that point. So, when the culture starts to go on us, when it starts to believe very different things, we notice that there are less people in church. So maybe, and this might even apply to us, just maybe, I might want to consider why I'm here. Now, we heard some of those things this morning, and we hear them all the time. I mean, we are here because when Christ comes, he comes to restore to us what was our birthright in our being created in his image and likeness. And that's an amazing thing to think about. That God wants to withhold from us nothing of who and what he is. The who-ness comes to us most particularly in the person of our Lord and God and Savior Jesus Christ. But it is a who-ness that is the very fact of existence itself, which is the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. And we are made to be in multiplicity, a reflection of just that kind of perfection. That's what we're made for. It's all we're made for. And we will never, ever find ourselves happy, desiring and pursuing anything but that. Because it's our nature. It's what we're made for. And so what we're left with, it seems, however, is some feeble attempt to do something different. To at least make it tolerable. And then settle for the tolerableness of life. And you know, again, we who have grown up in either the generation before us or our baby boomer generation have had very tolerable lives to deal with. And so we get to see the wisdom of how it's spoken of that the suffering church is the healthier church. Because when we're not struggling, when we're not in pain, there is very little possibility that we truly seek out what's best for us. And so things like, at the very top of the list, our mortality are so essential to our desiring to really get to work on what it is and who it is we are. Because if I'm here forever, as my cloudiness or the darkness in my eyes can infer to me, then what's the hurry? What's the rush? Why do I need to respond today? I can always put it off till tomorrow. And therein lies the blessing. When some of us find ourselves, either because we have people we love who end up getting diseases, suffering, when we ourselves get sick, it's good for us. It is absolutely good for us and essential for our growth to have some pain. Because, again, we don't have to look very far to see what it is that happens when we are pain-free. We believe that we will just go on forever, and we will listen to that. So, as a little bit extra reflection on what we heard this morning, in the back of our church we have what we call our intercessory wall, where the saints there are patrons of various sorts of the maladies that we can experience in this life. We have St. Nectarios there, who's a very popular one, a modern saint by most kinds of standards that we would measure, and a patron of the victims of cancer, people who are struggling with that disease. There's also St. Dymphna back there, who's there for mental health. There's St. Stylianos, who's there for little children. We also have St. Joseph there and St. Artemius for teenagers. So we have this array of saints back there, which ought to at least cause us to contemplate and think about how the saints fit into our lives and we in theirs. I had a conversation with a person who is a faithful member of our community and is here a lot. And it was kind of shocking to me when in our conversation talking about the thing that gets in the way of all of this for us, which is our minds, which is those logismi, as the Greek word goes, the thoughts, what's going on in our heads. That when I came to touch on, again, the fact that, if we want to know what we were made for, we just need to look at the daily commemorations of the saints. If we want to know what we are capable of, then we just need to see how they lived, and even more specifically, how they died. Because that courage is not special to them. It is not something given to some and not to others. It is part of our human nature to be able to stand up for what is true and real and right and express it, even at the risk of our mortal demise. But we don't believe that. Something in my head tells me, not really, and how cheated I am, how unfortunate it is that I don't believe that I am capable of any higher experience than what I've had so far in this life. And that's the truth. That by the time we hit a certain age, we are so much creatures of habit that we just don't believe that something like happened for the good thief. In that moment when his lights came on, when all of a sudden he saw things clearly. And what would that have been like for him? Woo! Talk about a burden being lifted. We can only imagine. But at any moment in our lives, we are capable, and God is waiting for us to let go in the same fashion that we see in that good thief. But we know better. But our habits are deep. The ruts we are in are so deep, we probably, even to see the walls of them. So for someone to suggest that at our advanced stage of life, that not only is there still some work to do, but it is always the same from the moment of our considering the possibility that there's work to be done. It's always increasing. There's never less to do. In our journey toward God, there's never less to do. And it starts with, again, unfortunately, dealing with the chatter. The chatter which says, not really. What's he talking about? And a big one. You listen to that voice saying, I'm not sure what he's talking about. I don't understand. Maybe he's talking a little bit over my head. Man, what a killer voice that is. And most of us have it at some degree. Most of us have a voice that will comfort us by telling us, no, not really for us. Either we're humble enough to know that we're not saints, or we're just a little bit more in the darkness about it and just don't want to do the work. And so when we see what happens as a body, when the culture, which again for us as what used to be called a Judeo-Christian culture, people did what we did because there was a law. Because everybody went somewhere on Sunday or Saturday. Pretty much we're talking Sunday. Everybody did, and so everybody did. And the benefit of that was that we reaped the benefit of a culture that was trying to live right and to worship God. But we also see that as that culture seems to be disappearing before our eyes, what are we left with? Well, what we're left with is an easier task of trying to really look and see, what about me? How do I see these things? How do I work with these things? How am I striving to move to God and to love Him with all my heart and soul and strength and my neighbor as myself? Or not? Is that for the saints? And so, if we can be just a little honest, we want to see just how, when we hear these things, man, my attitude is, it doesn't. And I'll hear all this talk about not being, so involved in the cares of of them. And I would venture to say that it would be good for all of us to consider how deep we're in the middle. Because it's only when we start to see, my gosh, I haven't come very far at all. I haven't been making much progress at all. Maybe hardly any. But maybe I've descended low enough, and maybe I've accumulated enough years, enough to recognize that my time is growing shorter, that I want to get to work now. And again, we are blessed with every imaginable resource in this realm. The comparison between 30 years ago when someone would come inquiring about what Orthodox Christianity would be, in terms of the number of books, probably 2 or 3 in English that were suitable for offering to somebody to learn about God's holy Orthodox faith. Now there's hundreds and hundreds of books and more being written all the time. And if you can't read because your eyes aren't good enough, you can put your earbuds in, and your headphones, or just a Bluetooth sync it to your radio and listen to these words spoken, because so many of these books are now available. Yeah, and even original texts from the 2nd and 3rd and 4th centuries and throughout all of Christian history, there for us to hear people read to us if we don't want to be sitting there and doing the reading ourselves. And then to be able to hear masters and to see in our apps all around us all the time the capability of immersing ourselves in these things. One of the things I have to admit is I'm not sure how much I want to do that. And how sad and how foolish for us. Because it is in those things, it is in our ability to recognize that it's time to get to work. That my whole salvation lies. And if I think that this is as good as it gets, which is, in a certain way of speaking, true, this is as good as it gets right now. The future does not depend on my past in any degree. In fact, while we know that what you reap, as you reap, so shall you sow, we know that our Christian faith is just about the absolute opposite of that. That God's love is so perfect and so inclusive that we don't get what we deserve, that we do not reap as we sow, that we in a moment have the potential to just open our eyes and to see truth and light by the grace of God, and to say yes to that, and immediately our whole lives, poof, in terms of the cause and effect and the consequence aspect of it, because of God's love, matters next to nothing. So let us pray that when we hear these things that challenge us, when we hear these things, that our natural tendency will be to not listen, or to think we've heard them before, or to think that we don't have to worry about them, or to think that we're not good enough because we're not saints. Let us try and struggle as mightily as we can to recognize that these lies that come to us in our thoughts, whether they're directly offered to us by some kind of personal evil power, or whether it's just a bad habit of how we've learned to accommodate life, let us pray that we look at them and listen a little bit, pay attention as best we can to what it's saying, and recognize that it has nothing to do with me, really. What really has to do with me is this thing we call the soul, the spirit, the heart, the center of us, which is made for God, which God holds each of us as the apple of His eye in that regard. Only for our asking, and only for our surrendering to, and only for our accepting this real and true and proper order of a God who makes it all for all of us and gives it to us for all of us to enjoy, only for the asking and the acknowledgement of that good and proper order. Let us pray that we in our continuing journeys through this life will be moving from that, from the darkness and shadows that we may find ourselves in, into a light that can begin to respond acceptably to life and God's will as it comes to us. Amen.